Great, awesome. Okay. Great. Hi guys, welcome. 6 o'clock on the dot. It is so good to see everyone again. It feels like it has been a little while. Apologies about last week and needing to change it. We had pretty much two emergencies. One was on the farm here, we're about a month late with rain, so we haven't had rain for a month. So I was just trying to help my husband with that. But then I got stung by a wasp, and I'm super allergic, so we ended up having to do a nice little hospital stint. So anyway, all of that is over. We're all back here, and I'm looking forward to pretty much just sharing what I'm learning and growing, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you. So I'll just pop straight onto a screen share while we're here. There we go. And cool. And I think, can I open up a chat? So how about, before we get going, I've opened up my chat here. Hope it's not in your way. Maybe just pop kind of, it's always nice for me to know where you are based, and maybe kind of like why this theme of navigating the changes and challenges of menopause is striking a chord for you. So if it's easy enough for you to type in the chat, if you had a laptop or something like that, you can do that. If you're at your phone, don't stress. It ends up being more challenging than not. But it's always nice for me just to know who's around, who I can connect with, and what is happening. So that's pretty much what our talk for today will be, just having a look at the Ayurvedic perspective, I suppose, when it comes to menopause. So while we still wait for everyone to arrive and to get here, a little bit about me. So I am a yoga teacher trainer as well. I've got a studio in Cape Town. I've got some lovely teachers teaching at that studio for me while I am living in Mozambique. We also run yoga teacher training. So we've got a lovely group together at the moment. And I'm just trying to think what else. Yoga retreat is something I've been doing. Every week I host a podcast with my friend Nicole. So those are on the Nourish and Restore pages. And at the moment I am a health coach in training. So that's kind of what this whole series, my free monthly talks, is about. It's just for me a chance to share what I'm learning with all of you. All right, so I can see Lisa is here. Great, Lisa's in Cape Town. We've had some good chats before, and if you had your menopause in your 40s and now 50s. So lovely. Pretty much what I do and why I do it is that I want to kind of bring the sense of chaos and bringing a sense of rhythm and order to that chaos that is around us. We are all very stressed in our daily lives, and there's so much that's going on. And just by offering these little talks and the work that I'm doing, hopefully we can bring a little bit more structure and rhythm to us. All right, and I see that Nicolette is here as well. And a couple of goodies there. And surviving and maintaining blood, okay. So changes in body temperature and sleep habits. So that's probably kind of the ease into it. So while you guys kind of settle in, or while we settle in, I'll just let you know how this talk will kind of transpire, what we'll be doing. We'll start with a nice centering practice. It's a lovely way that I always love starting a yoga class, just to kind of bring us into the space together. Then what we'll do in our hour together is we'll chat a little bit about understanding menopause and the changes of life, having a look at it through Ayurveda. So just for all of you to know and to be very clear, I'm not an Ayurvedic practitioner. All I'm doing is working with the lifestyles of Ayurveda and the knowledge that I'm learning and using myself, I'm sharing with you guys. So I can't recommend or prescribe any tablets or anything like that, or herbs or concoctions, but I can share Ayurvedic lifestyle habits with you. All right, so we're going to look at how to also address menopause individually, because it is it is, in a sense, it is happening, but it is also very individual for each person. And the challenges with our current lifestyle, why that is not supporting us through this phase in menopause, and simple practices we can start to implement. Now, there's quite a lot to cover, but what I'm also going to see, if we've got time, we'll do a yoga nidra at the end, because it was lovely the last time we did it. But if not, then this week while I'm out at the coast, I'll do a recording and I'll send that to you. And then I'll chat a little bit about my program, and then I'll leave time for Q&As if there's anything specific you want to chat. So, great. Yeah. Okay. And things have definitely kicked up again this year. I love it. Perfect. All right. So I'm just going to make sure that everyone, maybe just make sure if you are on mute. And there we go. Everyone's on mute. And then from here, we'll go straight into NI centering practice. So for this, it would be lovely if you are sitting on a chair, to have your feet on the ground. If you're sitting on the ground or on your yoga mat, you can make sure that the buttocks is on a stable and comfortable surface. And if you're on your couch, really just make sure that you are as comfortable as you can be. So you can start off by closing your eyes. And as you close your eyes and you settle into the space and the time that we're in now, become aware of your breath. Just very subtle breath, the inhale and the exhale, the full and the empty. Maybe the sense of up and down, or in and out. Noticing how or what comes naturally to you this evening. And then just become aware of the earth element, so the sense of stability beneath you. Firm ground, stable. And just imagine that earth mixing with water, nourishing, clear, cleansing water, to form like a really nice kind of mud, cohesive energy, the kapha energy, the kapha dosha. Just see if you can experience that sense of heaviness and downward pulling for a moment. And then let that sensation go. And then take a moment to experience a sense of the fire element, the sun, candle flame, radiating heat, the sense of kind of power, determination, direction. And imagine a very, very soft mist of water around that flame to contain it, so it doesn't become a fire that becomes raging, but it's a contained fire in mist. And it gives you purpose, it gives you clarity, and just feel that sense of direction deep within you. Feel that you can breathe that sensation in and out. And then let it go. And then take a moment to experience the air element. Very subtle breeze and a kind of an expansiveness. Air and ether combining to form that vata dosha. Very movable, volatile, etheric sense. And just feel that beautiful lightness flowing through you, around you. Breathe that lightness in and out. And let it go. And realizing that all these three states, the kapha, the earth and the water, the pitta, the fire with a little bit of water, and the vata, the air and ether, are all within you. Maybe just notice which one you're drawn to a little bit more this evening. Which one kind of stands out in the forefront? And then again, breathing in and out. And releasing, lovely. And then just bringing the palms of your hands together, getting the hands really nice and warm, rubbing them, rub, 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 rub. And then from there, cup them over your eyes. Take a deep breath in and slowly out. And gently release, blinking your eyes a few times, getting used to the light. Don't look straight at the screen as you move your eyes or your hands away. Kind of look into the distance or away or down at the ground. And then just bringing yourself back here, back into the space and the time we're in. Lovely, welcome. Great. All right, so hopefully that has settled all our energy quite nicely, kind of just also maybe realizing which of those three energies is maybe a little bit more in the forefront, which is a bit more apparent at the moment. And again, realizing that we have all these elements in us, but very often we kind of like have one dosha that's a little bit more dominant. Great. Okay, so let's get straight to it. Menopause. So menopause is pretty much, as you all know, the natural end of menstruation. So it's kind of the ending years, not the ending years, the end of the procreating years for women. And it is a big shift. And very often kind of the natural age that they say is around 51, but it can happen a lot earlier, and it can also happen right up as late as 60 years. What we're going to probably focus on a lot in our chat today is the perimenopause, because this is the time that kind of can precede menopause. It's up to that 10 years. And postmenopause is the time after you've been without a menstrual period for 12 months. So kind of menopause, after kind of no period for 12 months, that's menopause. The time thereafter is postmenopause. And the reason why I'm assuming many of you are here, or why you're here, is because most women, as the quote says, feel the most menopausal symptoms during perimenopause. And it's a dreaded time for many women. Hot flashes, weight gain, sleepless nights, mood swings, inflammation, changes in libido. And these seem all very common, and they also seem very they kind of seem like they're completely unavoidable. And what I thought we would do today is address this topic of menopause and just see how our current lifestyle is maybe not supporting the easeful navigation through menopause, and what Ayurveda says to help. Okay, so in our relaxation, we were chatting about the three doshas, the Pitta dosha, so our water and fire, the Vata dosha, the air and ether, and the Kapha dosha, the water and earth. And in our talk, I'll continue to refer back and forth to these doshas. What I want us to keep in mind is that we kind of these elements are throughout our whole life and throughout the whole day. So like we were chatting before, in the first picture here with the three different women, we've got kind of like the Kapha woman, who is a little bit more voluptuous. She's got strong bones, she's got wide hips, she's got beautiful big eyes, thick hair. And some of us have more Kapha in our constitution physically, and we kind of have tendencies towards that. Some of us are more Pitta, which is a lot more of the kind of athletic look, the broad shoulders, the narrow waist, maybe the freckles, often kind of like with red hair, very kind of your A-type personality. And then your vata, which is the air and ether element. If you have a lot of that in your physical constitution, there is a lot of irregularity. So you often find that, one side, of your lip is fuller than the other. One eye is maybe set a little different to the other. They either usually kind of really, really tall or really, really short, usually thinner boned, because there's not that much density of the earth to form bone structure. So we all have, again, all elements in us, but we generally lean towards one predominantly. So for example, I'm definitely very, very vata pitta. Often two are dominant. And so keeping that in mind, looking at your prakriti, so kind of the constitution that you are, not the vikriti, the out of the imbalance that you are. We want to be looking at kind of our balanced state, the constitution you were born with. So if you think back of it as when you were a kid. So we're going to keep that in mind. What you can also keep in mind is the imbalance, because maybe you've slipped into an imbalance in mental activity, emotional activity, or even just physically over the years. Let me minimize this so much if you can see it. There we go. So what we also need to be very cognizant of is that these three phases are throughout the day. So for example, from 6 p.m. now till 10 p.m. is the kapha time of day. From 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. is the pitta time of day, that fiery time of day. From 2 a.m. till 6 a.m. is in the morning, the vata, and then we do that again from 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. is kapha time, lunch time, and then the late afternoon. So as much as we have certain energy and elements within us, the different times of day also have it. And the same goes for the season. So if you're in season, if you're in summer, hopefully you're in a season, if you're in summer, you most probably are in a pitta dominant season where there is sun and light. Often in winter, especially in Cape Town, it's very, very kapha. It's wet, it's dense, it's cold, and often the changing between seasons. So often, like especially the autumns and the spring, is the vata kind of seasons. So we have the seasons following these elements, we have the time of day following these elements, and we have our constitution following these elements. The other thing that goes with the kapha, pitta, and the vata is the stages of life. And this is where it becomes very, very interesting, in the sense that the kapha stage of life, if you have a look at these little kids, that is the growing stage. That is where we are busy growing into who we're becoming. There's a lot of congestion, colds, everything that is related to that dosha. As we get into kind of like adolescence, so your 20s to about your 50s, you're moving into your pitta stage of life. And this is where there are a lot of hormonal changes. This is where we're busy doing stuff. We're, becoming the businesswoman, we're starting a family. There's a lot of fire in this section, this stage of life, to kind of get us moving and grooving into who we're becoming and what we're doing. And then usually kind of round about 50-ish or so is when we transition into the vata stage of life, where it is becoming where there's a lot more air and ether in our constitutions. We're slowing down, our mind becomes a lot more clear, kind of like there's a lot more of this sense of spirituality within us. Often our mind can become, I feel like I'm there now, like kind of losing it a little because of that great spaciousness. So kapha time, the growing time, the building time, the forming time. The pitta time is the drive. We do, we create things, and the vata time is kind of like that slowing off phase. Now, this is important when it comes to menopause, because there's kind of like a significant change of where we're moving from this pitta stage in our life. No matter what our constitution is, we're all kind of in that stage of life, to moving to a more predominantly vata stage of life. And this is that transition that we're talking about, where when we're looking at perimenopause, how we can transition easily from that fire state, that pitta state, to the vata state, which is this air and ether element. And when it takes over, it's expansive and it's moving and it's volatile and it can change things. And I'll get into all of that in a little moment. So pitta, like I was saying, is a sustaining energy. It's that fire, it's the burning. There's a sense of intensity, there's a sense of focus. Vata is that very, very light, changeable, volatile energy. And when there is a lot of vata, it can cause a lot of disarray. And this is what Alexandra Appel has to say. Any stored problems in the back corners of your body, such as undigested food, physical toxins, undigested emotions, emotional toxins, undigested experiences, or unfulfilled desires, these undigested things will increase the air element of vata in your body. So if there is a lot of stuff that you have been hiding, packing away, kind of putting under the covers, be it physically, be it emotionally, be it mentally, be it desires that you've wanted to do and you just haven't fulfilled, all of this in the vata, the air, the wind, the ether, is slowly going to kind of lift those up and bring those to the surface for you. And this is where we often find that women struggle with menopause, the perimenopausal symptoms. It's because there's just so much coming up to the surface, wanting attention and kind of wanting you to take note. All right, so what we want to be doing is definitely looking at lifestyle changes and diet changes, not hectic ones, just ones that really support ourselves through this phase. All right, Stephanie say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, definitely. And what we want to do is, you know, if we're in this phase already, or if we're going to be heading into this perimenopause phase, is that we want to be able to prepare ourselves as best as possible. Okay, so with all of that said, when we look at Ayurveda, as you can imagine, we've got three constitutions, or they are the three constitutions, but there are also three different types of perimenopause, which often doesn't get acknowledged. So there is the pitta, the vata, and the kapha type of menopause, and they're all going to have similar but slightly different symptoms and tendencies and imbalances. So that is pretty much what I thought we would look at today, discuss a little, and maybe you'll be able to kind of pick out, okay, you know, this is what it is for me. This is why I'm struggling with this a little, and this is why this person, my friend, Mr. B or Ms. B, does not have this issue. And that's why also, again, the same medication, everything is not going to be the same for everyone, because we are little individual snowflakes, like Renee likes to say. And we're going to have to see where our challenges are. Are they physically? Is it with undigested food? Is it more emotionally? Is it more mentally? Is it more that we're putting our desires in the back, and that actually we've been living healthily, but our desires are really wanting to come to the forefront? All right, so let's move on. What we need to be cognizant of is that this phase that we're moving into is the vata stage of life, which means that there is going to be this vata component for all women, no matter what your dosha is. No matter if you've more of a kapha dosha or a pitta dosha, you're going to realize that you're actually going to start picking up more of these vata traits. And vata is light and dry and volatile. So those are slowly going to creep into your constitution as well. And the idea is to not be freaked out about it or pissed off about it or annoyed about it, but actually to embrace it, because this is kind of, we've got tools and ways that we can actually manage and navigate our way around change. So one of the main things that we want to be looking at is vata pacifying practices. They are generally, not always, but pretty much generally going to be helpful for everyone going through this transition. The other thing that we want to notice is that our constitution is at birth. What our constitution at birth is most typically the most likely dosha to go out of balance. So if you are a predominantly Pitta person, you are probably going to experience more of the Pitta perimenopausal symptoms. If you are more Kapha, you will probably experience more of the Kapha perimenopausal symptoms. And if you're Vata, we're going to go into those now. And kind of, there are a lot. There's the biggest one. I kind of want to spend most of the time here this evening because I think this is such a dominant one for so many women. So when it comes to Vata, Vatas tend towards dryness because of the air. You can just think, if you kind of suck your finger and you kind of bring air to it, that finger is going to get dry really, really quickly. All right, so with Vata, there is always a sense of dryness. You find your skin is often dry, your mouth is dry, you probably suffer a lot from constipation because your stools are dry. You also tend we tend towards irregularity or scanty periods, PMS, cramps, galore, thin hair, and we're usually the ones that have quite a testy immune system. We usually are the ones that struggle a little with quite a bit with our immune system. There's not that robustness that the Kapha doshas and our friends have. So the main symptoms that you're going to notice during this is dryness and coldness. Those are the typical tendencies for Vata, dryness and coldness. So what often happens is that if there, like we were chatting before, if there are toxins stuck in your body, unresolved emotions or desires, hidden feelings, all of that, that is pretty much going to come to the surface. And the way the body is going to do that is probably going to use hot flushes. So you'll probably find that you're the kind who you'll get hot flushes. And then afterwards, you're going to kind of feel really, really cold. You'll get those cold sweats. Because of the air and the ether, we also have a tendency of kind of weak bone structure. So that's where the osteoporosis tends to come in. We will struggle more with kind of scanty, irregular missed periods, a sense of, again, not just dryness of the body, but vaginal dryness as well, which can then also lead to painful sex. Because of the Vata, the air and the ether just moving, that is where insomnia really, really comes alive. So you'll probably find that you're going to be in the Vata time. Let's go back to our little here. During this Vata time, you'll probably find that you're going to wake up around 1, 2 o'clock, and you're going to be awake right through, like, probably till 4, 5 o'clock. That is a typical tendency for Vata, is this kind of insomnia during those hours of kind of like between 1:30 to 4. And because of the air moving through us, we also tend to have a lot of heart palpitation, urinary incontinence. I was chatting about the constipation a little earlier, because there's a dryness within our kind of gut from mouth to anus. Because it's not well lubricated, we suffer with a lot of constipation. The interesting thing as well with Vatas, what you'll find is very often, if you've got a Vata dosha, it's you tend towards weight loss easily. But the other thing is that you can then go into weight gain. And the reason why is that what happens is that if you are not well nourished, that is kind of like the word for Vata. If you're not well nourished and hydrated, your body is going to use fat stores and is going to draw that to your body to literally insulate you and protect you. And that's why, even though Vatas generally have thin bones and narrow bones, they can actually put on a decent amount of adipose tissue because of the body wanting to contain and collect and hold. So just keeping that in mind. Vatas don't necessarily mean that you're kind of going to be skinny and slim. It can actually mean that there might be a little bit of extra padding that is not really necessary. And we are the ones that tend and lead towards anxiety and overwhelm. If you're the type of person who does get anxious and overwhelmed very, very easy, very, very quickly, then this is really something you want to be taking cognizance of. Finding practices and things that you can do to just bring that sense of calm and ease and steadiness, a sense of groundedness. When you start to settle and balance the emotions, that's when you're going to most probably find that these tendencies of, or the symptoms of menopause will ease away a little. When we are in a constant stress and anxious and hyper state, our body actually can't relax into the nurturing self of itself. So yeah, keeping that in mind. Once I've gone through all the doshas, we'll have a look at little practices that pretty much we can all do, and maybe also specifically for each particular dosha. All right. Peter. So if you tend to be the A-type personality, if you've done your constitutional quiz and you've got a lot of Pitta in you, that fire, that sense of heat intensity, you're going to be working a lot more, or you'll probably notice a lot more of these type of tendencies or challenges. For a Pitta woman, you kind of like early 20s or whatnot to about 50 or so is kind of like fire time of life. You're fired up. It's like fire on fire. You probably are one of those who can snap very quickly, get angry quickly, get frustrated quickly. People just aren't doing things fast enough. The kids aren't getting ready fast enough to kind of, you know, your speed. And if that's the case, noticing it, there's nothing wrong with the Pitta dosha or element and energy. We just need to know how to direct it smartly so that it can be of the most benefit to us. So heat and intensity, and that is kind of the qualities of Pitta. What you'll notice during working toward, like as you lead up towards menopause, the symptoms is that you are probably the ones that suffer from like those really, really super severe hot flashes. Like everything feels like it wants to come out and explode. It is literally the stuff that's within you wanting to come out energetically. That's happening. All right. With so much heat, it is natural for inflammation to take shape. So that's generally then where you're going to get the vaginitis, the cystitis. Your diarrhea is where there is just too much heat in your kind of in your stomach, in your abdomen. It's kind of like burning through all the food so quickly, and it's causing those loose stools, that diarrhea. And you often also feel kind of like that burning indigestion sensation, like there's just too much heat in the body. And often with Pittas, it's because there's just kind of like an overwhelming sense of toxins, maybe within the body, that are wanting to be released. The physical toxins, the emotional toxins, kind of the unfulfilled desire, all of that is coming out energetically. And what the Pittas will also probably notice is that when you do have a period, is that there is that intense period. Everything with Pitta is intense. It's like everything's on like 150%. It's go. So when there's a hot flush, it is severe. When kind of there's an inflammation, it is severe. When there is bleeding, it is severe. It is kind of like the image shows there. It is the fire. And the same with our emotions. You probably kind of maybe will find that as you transition into the vata time of years, is that kind of like that anger and frustration might just ease off a little, but you'll probably find that especially during this changeable period, that you will get really moody and get snappy, frustrated, and angry very quickly. So if you imagine that you've got your little fire of anger, you're angry with this one little person, and you're managing to contain it. And now you're bringing on just a little bit of wind from kind of the perimenopause moving into the change of life. So there's a little bit of wind coming, and this flame is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually kind of like it explodes. And that's what happens, why there are these kind of mood changes, because you think you can contain it, but then the wind from kind of the third stage of life comes and it just says, hello, 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 and explosion, boom. All right, so that is Pitta, hopefully entertaining. We will now move on to Kappa. Now Kappa, probably those who've got a lot of Kappa qualities in their constitution, in their physical constitution, are probably the luckiest when it comes to menopause, because they're probably going to be the least phased, they're probably going to be the most resilient. Because if you think of Kappa being the earth and the water, that solid constitution, the wind is not really going to disturb that Kappa too much. The problem is that when Kappa is aggravated, that is when you will slowly notice the symptoms. So if your Kappa isn't balanced, if you're not fully in and nicely balanced in your constitution, that's when you're going to probably notice a lot of excess weight building on your body, because again, it's protection and it's wanting to look after, to protect. And what often happens is mentally, there's like a sense of heaviness. So there's a sense of lethargy. You're not wanting to get off the sofa, or you just want to stay in bed, just, another 15 minutes longer or half an hour longer. There's just not that kind of desire. There's not that fire to get you going in the mornings and moving. What Kappas can also often lean towards or tend towards more is a sense of sadness. So, and kind of that sense of depression, those heavy emotions that weigh you down. Anything that is kind of like heavy and weighing down is definitely linked to the Kappa. So those are kind of the three types of perimenopause symptoms, all very similar. We can experience all of them no matter what, but you'll generally find that there is one that is more dominant, kind of one grouping that is more dominant for you. And when it comes to Ayurveda, like increases like, and opposite balance each other. So for example, if you are already vata and you're going to throw in more air and ether into this, and you're creating lightness, it is going to create even more lightness and more volatility. Whereas if you bring something like earth towards that vata, the opposite is going to balance. More earth and water is going to calm and balance and kind of like contain and bring everything inwards. All right, so hopefully that is making sense. If you need me to explain anything else, let me know, just pop it in the chat and we can do that. What I thought we could look at is, let me move that there, is the doshas and how we can now slowly start to balance with the opposites. So again, I'll start with vata. Vata is dry, light, and cold. Those are the natural tendencies of vata. So we want to bring in the opposite. So we want to bring in a lot more moistness, a lot more heaviness, and warmth. The focus for vata is nourishment. We really, really want to nourish our body physically, our mind mentally, and our mind, our emotions, as well as our spiritual development. So for example, if we look at diet off the top of my head, you're going to want to make sure that you stay away from foods that are dry, light, and cold, which means things like crackers and chips and crisps, and even salads are considered sometimes a little too cold. What you're going to want to focus on doing is eating foods that are moist, heavy, and warm. So those are kind of like your stews and your soups. Anything that has a lot of water content to it is what you're going to want to do. In other words, you would rather want to have mashed potato compared to roast potato. Roasting or fried potatoes even is too dry, too light. So you want something that is a lot more moist and solid. So anything like with your root vegetables that is heavy and is going to draw you down is great for vata. The same for pretty much like exercise. Vatas, they're not going to want to go kind of like running here and running there, you know, doing a 5K run or something. They're going to really want to work with practices that are heavy, grounding, and moist. So really, really stable. Maybe even doing like a little bit of weights here and there, or resistance training to try and build and strengthen the bone structure again. And and kind of make that stronger. What you want to try and prevent with the drying is really make sure that you are hydrated. So taking in 2, 3, 4 mugs of warm water as you wake up so that you can really hydrate and help to eliminate the system. And throughout the day, and this is one of the things that I've been doing very, very regularly, is sipping hot water, warm water. That is one of the quickest way that you can start to hydrate yourself throughout the day. And if you just try this tomorrow by working to hydrate yourself for every half an hour, taking a sip, you'll notice that the next day you actually feel so much more hydrated. A lovely, lovely thing in yoga that we talk about for dry skin is Abhyanga, oil massage. Doing oil massage maybe before you shower or after you shower or in the evenings, but getting that oil lubrication. And we're not talking about lotion, we're talking about oil. You can use lovely sesame oil for vatas. Coconut oil in summer if it's hot. Olive oil, you want to be grabbing that oil and you want to be rubbing it onto your skin, into your joints. The oil is going to kind of like saturate. It's going to go straight into your joints. It's going to lubricate it. It's going to give you that lovely complexion. And it's going to take you away from being super, super dry. And it's going to make you a lot more soft and a lot more pliable. All right. The other thing with vatas that you need to take into consideration is that they need routine. We're the ones who need routine the most. We need to be able to have our 3 meals at relatively the same time of day. When we bring this routine into it, there's not this thing of happening, I'm going to eat something quickly here, and I've forgotten to eat for 6 hours, so I better, and I'm starving now, so I'm going to grab this, I'm going to snack on this. If your body knows that it's getting breakfast at 9, lunch at 1, dinner at 5, it can relax into that rhythm. It doesn't need to go into stress mode with, she hasn't fed me, where's my food? And when you're able to then create that sense of ease and kind of mental softness, that there's not that agitation, that there's not that anxiousness, and that we were chatting about there earlier, the anxiety and the overwhelm. If you can really use that by bringing in routine, as kind of boring as it says, it may seem, it is the best for vata and moving into this vata stage of life. So no matter what predominant dosha you have, we're all moving into the stage of life. So we're all going to be wanting to do these practices. That's why I'm just spending a bit of time here just to make that a little clearer. All right, Carter's arrived. The other thing that we're going to want to do is, because we're moving into this vata stage of life, is that if we go back to our dosha clock, is that we really want to have our main meal at midday, at noon. That is when we've got the most bile in our system. That is when we're able to digest the food we're eating the best. If we end up having a late dinner around 7, 8 o'clock at night, we're in the cuppa time of dinner. That's kind of when all the energy is going down. There's no fire in your system to burn up and to utilize the food you're eating. And this is probably one of the biggest things that I've noticed with a lot of my friends here and complaining maybe about weight gain and, they're saying, I'm going through menopause and I've put on so much weight and I'm not eating anything and then I kind of dig a little deeper and figure out what's happening. And what often is happening is that they are eating a breakfast, usually a good breakfast, which is absolutely fine. Then at lunch, they might just be having like a sandwich. And then at dinner, maybe a few crackers and cheese and a handful of nuts. And then at night, then they're really, really hungry. And then they bring out kind of like the chocolates and the sweets and they start picking on that. When it comes to vata, what you're wanting again is that routine and the regularity. You need to really work with giving your body a break and at least 13 to 14 hours of break. So once you've taken in your last calorie at night, you want to work literally 13, 14 hours before you put the next calorie in your mouth. That is going to allow for autophagy to happen, where the cells can start eating up the toxins from inside. So let me put those quickly. Right, out you go. And sorry about that. So the kind of like that is definitely one of the things you want to do. Intermittent fasting is another way of calling it, but giving yourself that 13, 14-hour break to allow yourselves to clean house. Right. Just quickly going over pitta and kapha. If you just think of foods that are the tendency of pitta, hot, light, and dry. So anything super spicy, like your Tabasco sauces and your cayenne pepper and things like that, that is what you want to kind of try and release. You want to include more of the cool, the heavy, and the moist. So for the pittas, they definitely want to be having kind of like the mint teas, the fennel, and I think cardamom is cooling, and things that are moist are cooling. Green smoothies, pittas are great with salads. Those are the kind of things that kind of are great for you. What you really need to focus on is chilling out and cooling that agitated mind. Cool, cool, cool. We want to bring a lot more kind of water to that blazing fire. And then the final one is the kapha, which is naturally just heavy and dense and moist and cool. And we want to bring the opposites into that. So this is actually where sometimes the menopause, moving to the vata stage of life, can sometimes actually be quite invigorating for the kaphas because they're getting a bit more air into their system. So the kaphas, you want to be getting up and moving. Anything that has got to do with breath body practices where you're opening your lungs and closing is great for you. And I've got there, the focus is on move the body, moving. And kaphas need to avoid the heavy, the moist, and the cool fools. So like your yogurts that are cold and heavy and moist, and your ice creams, got to stay away from those. Luckily, kind of like the vatas and the pittas, their constitution can handle that a little bit better. But the kaphas, as soon as you put yogurt onto something, as soon as there's that denseness, that heaviness, the root vegetables, it's not great for you. You need like sprouts and salads and light things that are easy for your body to digest. And also if you have a lot of kapha in you, you want to make sure that you're doing your meal spacing well. All right. So pretty much a lot of what I was talking about is going to be beneficial for everyone. What you really want to look at is strengthening your digestion, your agni, what we call in yoga. And you can do that kind of like with herbal teas. But the best way to strengthen your digestion is with intermittent fasting. So giving yourself those 13 hours, 13, 14 hours break every night for your body to clean house, and to just sip or drink water between your meals. Have your breakfast, don't snack in between, have your lunch, don't snack in between, have your dinner, closed kitchen, no chocolates, no red wine in the evenings. Have it with your meal or right after your meal. I'm not saying don't drink your wine, don't enjoy your chocolates or anything like that. Absolutely, go for it. But do it with your meal so that it can all be digested together. Don't pick and choose here and there, because what that's going to do is just going to throw more fuel kind of onto the fire. And what happens is that just too much is going to collect, and it's not actually going to be able to burn and digest. You want to be able to put the items on the fire, give it time and space for it to burn up, allow there to be that sense of freedom, allow there to be that sense of hunger, really see if you can tap into that feeling of hunger, and then you can then put in the next load. And then again, let that burn, let it do its thing. Right, if we just keep filling, we're never going to allow our body to digest properly. And that's when the toxins then move deep into the cells. And that is then when perimenopause kicks in. It's going to want to draw all of that out of ourselves, bring it to the forefront to release. Okay, so strengthening your digestion, important. Cleaning house, physically, mentally, emotionally. So a great one as well is, if you struggle with this a little, is actually do it physically. Go into the bedrooms, the kitchen cupboards, clear out, declutter, do all of that, and then do the same for yourself as well. Declutter yourself. It might mean that you need to do a little bit of a detox every couple of months. How can you clean house mentally? Does that mean that you need to up or start working towards a meditation practice? Really, really important. How can you strengthen, or how can you clean house emotionally? Are there unresolved emotions that are sitting within relationships that you've got, be it with your partner, be it with your parents, your kids? What needs to be addressed so that emotionally you've cleared house? And then really, really important for everyone is obviously to strengthen that mind. And that's what we do when we sit in meditation. All right. So that is pretty much the little chat that I've put together on menopause, where we're moving from this pitta stage of our lives into the more vata dominant stage of our lives. And it's that transition that we are working with from the kind of the fire time to the air time. And a lot of the tips and the tricks that I was talking and chatting to you about this evening, about regular meal times, earlier, lighter dinner, getting to bed early. Well, we didn't really chat about that, but let me just bring that one up while I think of it. Because, and you'll probably find that I chatted a lot about this in the sleep workshop if you watched it, is that what I found a lot as well is that in this kappa time is this natural dense sense of fatigue that sets in. And often women will feel this maybe around 8:30, maybe even 9 o'clock. And then you'll go and sit on the couch and you'll grab maybe a cup of tea or a glass of wine and a chocolate, and you'll maybe fall asleep as you kind of watch a series or something, and then you wake up and then you kind of alert again, and then kind of 10 o'clock comes and you're now awake and you decide, okay, I'm going to do another series or another episode, and now you're in the pitta time. And then you kind of go to bed at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, and then you get up later in the morning. And what you're doing is you're just pushing your system kind of out of balance. And what we really want to start listening to is listening to that first sign of fatigue, be it 8:30, be it 9 o'clock, whatever it is. But we want to honor that fatigue, maybe do a lovely, luxurious evening routine where you can give yourself a nice massage, you can go for a bath, you maybe do a little yoga practice, a breathing practice, a meditation practice, so that you can literally get sleep before 10 o'clock and sleep through that pitta and vata time so you can wake up refreshed in the morning. So again, a habit that is so, so important. And when we manage to get that full sleep so that we don't have the insomnia, we don't have the interrupted sleep, we really feel a lot better. All right. So my Shifting from Chaos to Rhythm program really does use these 10 habits. We do it in a group where we support each other and we learn how to implement them step by step, slowly, slowly, slowly. So we're not doing big jumps. It's not going to be a stress on our life, on our family life. We really just slowly, 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 slowly is going to work with these 10 habits of Ayurveda so that we really can feel a lot more vibrant, a lot more alive, and a lot better in our life. So if you're interested in more information on my program, then pop me an email and we can make a plan to chat. My next group is taking off in March. So if that is something that you're interested in, then really get a hold of me. We work together for a year, which means we've got the time and the space to allow change to happen and to actually notice the change so that it becomes automated. It's like when you wake up in the morning and you go and brush your teeth. You don't think every morning, okay, I need to brush my teeth this morning. It's just one of those things that happens. And these 10 habits of being able to, move your body in the morning, sitting in silence, making sure that you eat healthy meals, those become automated with time. Great. All right, so I'm going to stop my screen share now. And if anyone has any ahas, any comments, any questions, I'll stay on for about another 10 minutes or so, or until we've covered what we need to. And yeah, and if anyone needs to go, I know it's nearly on the hour, then thank you so much for being here as well. So cool. If you have anything to add, maybe I've forgotten something as well, you're welcome to unmute yourself. I'm sure you can do that, or you can just message. All right, Lisa, you're welcome. It was lovely seeing you again or having you here. Hopefully that gave you some inspiration, some ideas, and I'm sure we'll see you around. Okay, you're welcome, Shia. Right, anyone brave enough to unmute themselves? I feel like I've just spoken for a whole hour. It would be nice to hear another person's voice for a while.
Hi, Nina.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you.
Yeah, I found that very interesting, especially the different types of menopause according to the doshas. And I was a bit alarmed to see that my symptoms sort of predominantly vata, but definitely some kapha and pitta in there too. So it's going to be, I think, an interesting challenge to, especially where they seem to contradict each other. If your vata is out of balance, then you've got to be going for the heavy and the but if your kapha is out of balance, then those are the things you need to avoid. So I think it's maybe just going to be a question for me of listening to my intuition and figuring it out, and being more mindful of which one is the one that really needs the attention now.
Which is predominant, yeah. And that's the other thing. And definitely, if you look at the kind of like the seasons that you move through, like if you're going to be in summer or the weather is more pitta dominant, you can definitely head more towards balancing that. In winter, when the kapha, is dominant, then you're definitely going to know that is already going to be a state that is quite dominant there. So definitely look at the weather, the seasons, and what's happening to give you clues and ideas as well. But just know that because the air and the ether is there and it's going to be playing havoc, it can throw everything out of disarray a little. And like you're saying, work very, very intuitively. When you start to quieten everything down and you go through all those 5 koshas that we were talking about in the last course, and we get to that intuitive layer, you will automatically know what it is your body's needing and is wanting. Here we go. Lovely, lovely, Pierre. Thank you. Lucy, you're welcome. Cool. And Stephanie. Okay, your Kappa, any tips for anxiety? How about Kappa in winter? How do I introduce more lightness and dryness? Okay, definitely. All right, so the biggest one for Kappa is moving. That is going to be kind of my go-to. Is the first thing you want to literally be doing when you get out of bed. One is you want to get out of bed and you want to move. So if it means that you are going to, while the kettle is boiling and you're waiting, to do your hot water, you're inhaling, you're exhaling, you're up, you're down, all you want to do is really, really start bringing the lightness into your body. And I know in winter it's difficult because kind of like you don't want to get out, you want to stay warm and cozy. But that is literally the biggest thing for Kappa. As soon as you start moving, it starts to get the blood pumping, the fire going, and bringing kind of that heat to you, and it slowly starts to melt away that stagnation. So what Kappas also really want to try, I'm going to just go back to my screen share quickly while we're here, is that, and this is usually nothing that they want to do, but because it's so easy for them to fall asleep, you definitely want to make sure that you get to your sleeping by 10 p.m. is that you want to get out of bed before the Kappa time in the morning, before 6 a.m. Because if you're still lying in bed, kind of, and I say 6 a.m., but it's kind of like when the day begins, when it's dawn, you want to get up just before then so that you've got the lightness of the vata time, the mobility to get you inspired and moving. If you sleep until the kind of like 6:30, 7 o'clock, stay in bed, and you're going to have that heaviness of the earth and the water holding you down, and it's just going to kind of like keep you back for the day, and it's not going to allow you kind of to progress forward. Whereas if you can just get up before the dawn and move and allow the lovely energy of the vata to circulate within you, that is always super, super helpful. And things like walking for Kappas are great. And instead of maybe doing like a seated meditation in the mornings, is maybe do like a walking meditation where you're looking at the sunrise or the horizon or the what's it called? The rising sun. Yes, that's what it's called. Whereas in the evenings, you'd maybe want to focus more on doing like the seated meditation where you then can ground and stabilize. I'm just trying to think what else I've learned for anxiety with a predominant Kapha dosha. So anxiety definitely has got a lot to do with vata, where there is that definite sense of anxiousness. So you want to, it's kind of like the two kind of the two differences, like the vata, which is moving, which needs stillness, and the Kapha, which is heavy and still and needs movement. So it's kind of like you need to bring the two into balance. And if you do that at the time of the day where the energy is the opposite, is the best. So that's why I was saying kind of like in the vata time of the morning, which is volatile, take yourself for a walk, which is quite grounding. Whereas in the evening, which is Kapha diamond solid, you can sit down and you can then allow the mind, which is probably very, very busy, to come inwards. So see how kind of playing with those two works. And I'm just trying to think. And lightness and dryness for Kappas, that can often be done with your Kappas love spice. Kappas should actually see if they can have a little bit of spice. That is what brings kind of lightness into their digestion. So maybe like a few chili flakes and something, or a bit of cayenne pepper or black pepper. I think that's usually quite helpful. and having like a lighter disposition, I suppose, where we don't think of things too heavy. And I've got to show you this because every time I do a little thing, I pull a card from my mandala deck, and I've got joy. So it's just that, and that's what I pulled for our talk today. It's just having that sense of joy with whatever you're doing, so that there's not that kind of heaviness or anxiety about anything, that there's actually a joyful disposition with whatever we're doing, be it our work, be it preparing meals, be it taking care of ourselves, and things like that. So Stephanie, did that answer hopefully a little bit? Okay, let's see what else we've got here.
Very, very useful. Thank you very much.
Okay, great, excellent. You're welcome. You're more than welcome. Predominantly kapha with elements of vata and pitta also explains why I feel so much better after exercise. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, all of us actually always do feel better after exercise because we release endorphins. But the kaphas, if that's your predominant, you just feel light and airy and spacious and like you can do things. And that's why, especially for kaphas, for everyone, but for kaphas especially, to move in the morning at least 20 minutes, whatever it is going to set you up for the day. Cool. Yeah, and Jacques just messaged me privately. So women go through menopause, but men, I can't remember what it's called. Maybe someone can remember what it's called. Nicolette will probably know. But kind of men also go through changes in their lives, and you'll probably find, Jacques, that there might be similar tendencies. I haven't explored too much in that realm yet, but you'll probably find that with the doshas and with the changes, because men are also moving from a pitta dominant stage of life, work, family, go, into a more vata dominant stage, so the elements are pretty much doing the same thing. You'll probably just find that you're going to have different symptoms to us as women. Yeah. Cool. Great. All right. Any other questions or ahas or anything else you'd like me to tap onto? Got another minute or two before we're going to call it a night. So what I will do is I'm off to the coast after my little, well, it was planned anyway. So we're going to be at the coast for a week. And while I'm there, I'll try and do a nice little yoga nidra recording, and then I'll email it to you guys so that you can do that and maybe just see how the elements and the doshas can be balanced a little. All right, everyone. It was so lovely to be here with all of you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share all the new information I'm learning. I'm enjoying it, and hopefully we get to connect and see each other again in the near future. And yeah, if there's anything, pop me an email, catch us on Facebook. You guys, I think, are all connected to me in some way or another. So yeah, look forward to catching up with you at some stage. All right, guys, have a lovely evening. Nice seeing you, Nicolette. And
thanks, Nina.
You're welcome. See you in the future. Night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.